Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Tennis Weekly with Joel, Kim, and Chris. On today's Tour Catch Up,
Sinner goes undefeated again to defend his tour finals title.
Alcaraz seals year end #1 ranking.
And we're giving away a pair of tickets to this year's UTS Grand Final in London.
Kim, Chris, today is the 17th of November, and we are here to catch up on the week in tennis at Tennis Weekly HQ. The Tour finals are over. Jannik Sinner is the champion once again. Carlos Alcaraz, though, has ended the season as the year end #1. We're going to be diving into that, talking about the Sinner Alcaraz rivalry this season, along with their match in Turin. And yes, we're going to be unpacking all of that. Davis Cup Final 8 in Bologna is also coming up. We're going to be looking at the draws for that. And we do have a very special UTS competition coming up at the very start of this second half. So do watch out for that. But guys, the ATP season, Davis Cup aside, the ATP season is now over. And what a fitting way to end the season with another installment of everyone's favourite rivalry, Jannik Sinner versus Carlos Alcaraz.
I think it should have been like a last set tiebreak, though, to be even more fitting. I was slightly disappointed it didn't even go to three.
Denied a set, yeah.
Yes.
I'm expecting an epic comeback every match. It doesn't quite work out like that. And in straight sets, it does feel a bit odd at the best of three format. We should have more either way, but I'm sure we're going to get plenty more in 2026.
Yes, plenty more bad predictions as well, because I wasn't here on the episode.
Yeah, we need to have a word with you, Kim, because we were confused because when we asked for your predictions for the Tour finals,
you said BRB Rioja.
Yeah, and you said Zverev. And
yes, I think the Rioja had something to do with that.
Okay, can you set the record straight? Where did Zverev come from?
What was your thinking? Yeah.
Just that he's been someone
He's
who
won it
hasn't
before.
made the most of his opportunities this season, and I thought maybe Alcaraz and Sinner are just going to they're just going to tire out at the very end, and Zverev will finally get his moment this year. But it wasn't to be, and he let me down. So that shows you what wine can do for your predictions.
So it was the Rioja talking.
Self. Yeah, note to self. Please make sure that we fully sober predictions from now onwards.
Absolutely. We'll be getting, of course, into all the action from the ATP finals. But I wanted to ask you both, what's caught your eye outside of Turin over the last week? There's been a couple of things coming out, hasn't there? Joel, what's caught your eye?
Well, in the UK, there's big focus at the moment in November on the rugby. Northern Hemisphere teams versus Southern Hemisphere teams, and there's always kind of big training camps during the week. And to my surprise, a certain Emma Raducanu appeared in the training camp for the England rugby team for their match against New Zealand. There were a few promo shots of her speaking to the England captain, Maro Itoje. She was being practicing in a line out, and very interesting to see those worlds collide. And I don't know if I'm going to sound too harsh here, but I was sort of scratching my head in terms of what can the England rugby team learn from Emma Raducanu and the Emma Raducanu season that she's just had.
She can teach them how to get better endorsements, probably. She's probably the highest earner out of all of them comfortably. So maybe she was giving them business advice for the future. But she's a big sports fan, Emma. She really does love F1. She likes football, rugby. She's really into sports. So I think that's probably where the connection came from. But I'm just glad that no one is asking her if she's dating any of them, because that has dogged her this season. Who is she dating? So let's throw no fuel on that fire.
Yeah, she also went to Cambio de Tercio, the lovely Spanish restaurant in London. I saw that on their social channels. And they do a lot of the catering now for some of the ATP events.
Was it on a candlelit dinner with anyone, Kim? Did you spot
I don't think so.
A Rioja was had?
Yeah, certainly not on their social channels. They weren't revealing any, gossip with regards to that. But I have to say, on a sort of personal news from players, I saw that Ons Jabeur has announced she's expecting I think a baby boy next April with her husband Karim. So that's really nice. Obviously, she's not been on the tour for several months now, and this is the next chapter of her life. So I thought that was a lovely end of the year for her. They're obviously expecting, and we'll look forward to seeing if she makes a return to the tour as a mother in a year or so, maybe.
Very good news, isn't it? Because there was always the talk about wanting to have a baby, and that was why she kind of kept postponing maybe having a break like some people do, because she really wanted to win Wimbledon before she did that. But I think lots of players have hopefully shown that you can go and have a baby and come back. I mean, Bencic this year, but don't ask her a question about it. But you can also
I was going to say, I'm like, that narrative is just going to keep going, isn't it? We're going to be like,
true.
Jabeur's first title. Yeah. As a mum.
Well, I mean, that's good to win the title. So to make a headline is good, but I guess it's the focus on something else. But either way, it's something she's always talked about. So I think it's especially nice news.
It is. And Chris, what about you? What have you got for us and our listeners this week?
Well, it is from Turin. So am I allowed to say it, Kim?
Please. Okay. And then it will segue nicely onto the results from Turin.
Oh, it's almost like you planned it. But I was quite surprised when I was reading who the practice sessions on who the hitting partner was for Carlos Alcaraz and Jannik Sinner on finals day at the ATP Finals. I had to double take because I thought, surely not. But João Sousa, the retired Portuguese former top 30 player who I witnessed retire in Estoril, I was at that press conference. He's now an ATP communications director, but he was warming up both players and apparently also warming up the players for the semi-finals. So very confused by this, but I did think it's quite nice, in the retired player to hitting partner, ATP communications director sort of pathway. But
so is this side hustle? Is he moonlighting?
It's a tiring week for him, isn't it?
Is this now just like the job description of an ATP comms director?
Well, it might be, but I thought it was quite nice, if this happens with tournament directors, you could then warm up the players ahead of the final. We do have, Muguruza over in Saudi Arabia for the WTA final. She could have a hit with them. Joel, you would absolutely love that. And then also we could have, the likes of Jamie Murray might take to the court. We could get all sorts of different players. Laura Robson can make an appearance. So I do like the idea of these people making appearances, but I'm just not sure he's the perfect person to be warming people up.
They did their annual show of players who have retired this season, because I did spot Kyle Edmund in one of those retirement photos. So there was not short of kind of, I guess, recently retired players who maybe
Kyle
could have been hitting partners.
Had a go, couldn't he? But I mean, it's a bit unusual. And I had another theory that everyone else had jetted off to the Maldives, so he was the only one left to hit with.
Okay,
that was my theory.
I can see the appeal of everyone going off.
Maybe an equalizer. The fact that he had a hit with both of them.
Yeah,
it's
maybe
the only one they both agreed on.
Yeah, neutral ground.
Well, let's have a look at what happened in Turin, because like we said, Sinner and Alcaraz, they did get to the final. It's another final in one of their, their already burgeoning rivalry so early on in their careers. And Sinner got the better of Alcaraz this time round, 7-6, 7-5. So avoiding that third set and it going the distance. But it was a good final, wasn't it? It wasn't, as dramatic as like the French Open final, but we got the players that I guess most people wanted. It was under the lights, end of the season, and Sinner defending his title in Turin. He's brought home a $5 million check as well, the largest in the ATP Finals' history. Didn't lose a set all week. So very, very strong finish to his season. Joel, what was the main story of the final? What was it that Sinner was able to do to get the better of Alcaraz this time round?
I mean, I think this was a match that played out on very kind of fine and small margins. Alcaraz had that set point in the first set. He was a break ahead as well in the second set. But we just see Sinner is just able to respond. And what was so impressive to me was in that second set, his serve just kind of folded on him or deserted it on him, and he was still able to kind of come out clutch on the big points. And I think for me, that was the big difference. Alcaraz, I don't think was able to, Sinner was able to kind of exert more pressure, I think, on the business at the business end on the big points. And when we look at this rivalry, I think it does come down to really minute details. And although maybe people will look at the Sinner serve in that second set and sense that was an opportunity for Alcaraz. The response from Sinner in front of his home crowd as well, and playing those big points really, really well, I think all combined for a straight sets victory.
Yeah, I mean, has been amazing over the last 2 years on indoor hard courts as well. I think he's not lost a match in 31 matches, has Sinner. So I suppose the surface, the home crowd, that will probably combine to give him the edge. But how did this clash kind of differ to the other finals that we've seen from them this season, Chris?
Well, I think there was the question mark around injury, and Carlos is having an MRI for his hamstring, where he did have some issues during the final. I think it probably could have affected him. I'm not saying it necessarily would have changed the result, but it was very close. So there might be some question marks as to whether he would have had more of a chance, because his participation at the Davis Cup is in doubt now, potentially, if this is something a bit more serious. I think what was a bit different from this is that it didn't quite kind of get going, probably in a similar way to the US Open final, where that was where there was someone who looked like they might be kind of winning it. And I think maybe in this one, that story of the tug of war didn't quite play out in the way that maybe we would have liked. Even though it was quite close in both sets, I also would say standard-wise and quality-wise, I don't think we hit the heights necessarily. I think it was a very entertaining clash. I mean, so many people tuned in on Italian TV. I think the most watched match ever, like 6 point something million people. So a great spectacle, but that tie break, some of the shot making, I was watching it from Heathrow Terminal 2, and I was very stressed out because the drop shots here and there, misses, all sorts of things. It was not clarity of thought. And I think we tend to see clarity of thought from both of these players in some of these big moments, and it didn't quite happen. So I think it was very entertaining. I do feel a little bit robbed of not having it be a full contest. But at the same time, I think 1 and 2, that's the best you can ask for when it comes to the ATP finals.
It was good enough to make you tune in from the airport, though, Chris. And
yeah, on the dodgy Heathrow Wi-Fi.
Jetting off to the Maldives? You know, where going anywhere nice?
I wish I was jetting off to Copenhagen to my usual abode at 0 degrees. So,
right.
Yeah.
Not the Maldives.
Not the Maldives, but we live in hope.
I mean, looking back at the finals, we'll get on to Sinner and Alcaraz, and their seasons in just a second. But, we had Felix, Auger Aliassime, and Alex de Minaur as the semi-finalists. Were you surprised that they were the ones that came through out of the groups? Or
Joel, how did this happen? How did Alex de Minaur end up?
I don't know. I mean, he had some really, really tough losses. And I think he was on record at saying, I don't know how many of losses I can take. I think, was it the one against Musetti?
It was 5-3 up in the final set.
Very, very painful. And I really had to work my calculator to understand how he came through, because I think 3 players in that group ended on 1-1, lost 2.
Yes.
And it was just really confusing.
It was very confusing,
a miracle.
But I can tell you that what he needed was to win in straight sets against Taylor Fritz, as well as for Alcaraz to win in straight sets. And then it came down to those who had the best set differential. It was the match they played.
Okay.
And he beat Taylor Fritz. So very confusing. I have tried to explain this to many people. I've not made it any clearer, but hopefully those listening, they'll be aware that when it comes to the round robin format, it all gets very confusing. But I mean, Alex de Minaur, going from, as you said, one of the darkest days he said he's had playing the game to making the semi-finals. What a turnaround for him. I think not many people would have picked him to bounce back like that. And I was going to say, Joel, Felix, what an addition to the field, because he really did have a good run there. And I think it just shows you he's finishing the year at number 5. That's a late surge from him. And it feels like that kind of 5 to 8 category, so many players have just dropped off, really, who we thought maybe would be getting closer to Carlos and maybe Sinner. But no one has done it.
No, and I think the finals have shown the stark difference between the top 2 and the rest of the field. Alexander Zverev, same story really this season. And again, in his group, I think, I look at his game and, he's got a great serve, but let's be honest, not much else at the moment. And another player who I think doesn't play the big points well enough. He does not play the big points like he is a world number 3. And it's really creating this big chasm, I think. And I think that's a big opportunity for someone, I think, to lead the pack, really, the chasing pack. It's not Alexander Zverev. I don't really know who actually it is at the moment. It was interesting reading on social media, I think, from tennis journalist Ben Rothenberg. He was kind of pondering who's had the third best season on the tour this season, and I think with the late showing from Felix, Auger, Aliassime, I think arguably you could put him in the mix, maybe Alex de Minaur as well. But certainly, I think with the way de Minaur has finished this season, I think he's a very strong candidate to be the leader of the chasing pack going into next season, because it's just so. I just don't think there's a big difference between, 3 and 8 in the world, as shown really by the results in the group standings
and the rankings. I mean, between the number 5 in the world and the number 9 in the world, there's actually less than 300 points that separate them. It's more like 250 points. So, I mean, Ben Shelton had a career high of number 5, but he's finishing the week at number 9, which seems quite strange given the fact that he obviously went in there as one of the highest seeds. So I put this to you, Kim, though, because Zverev did have a lot of chances. And so I'm going to slightly defend you here, because I do think he had so many breakpoint chances that he missed. He actually looked like he could do it if he believed he could do it. And I think that's the issue. Do you think the fact that he didn't is because they don't believe that they're going to get the win, or do you think he's just not clutch in those moments?
Oh, a bit of both. I think probably he needed the bottle of Rioja to help him get over the
calm
line.
the nerves.
But yeah, I think it's a mixture. It's just like you said, the top two have just cemented themselves so far above everyone else that it how can that not impact a little bit on your belief and your sort of self-worth, and I guess it's even more pressure to sort of make the most of any opportunity you get against either Sinner or Alcaraz, but also against everyone else, because you think, well, I've got to get through to be the one that could challenge. Whether that's going to change into next season, I don't know. It's going to take an awful lot, because Sinner and Alcaraz have just dominated this season. The last 3 Grand Slam finals, the finals here in Turin. I mean, they're just, the points wise, they're so far ahead, aren't they? And what I would say though is it's, obviously we had Roger, Rafa, Novak, we had the big 3, and then there was a lull where we only really kind of had Novak, and now at least there's 2 of them, and it's not like just one at the top, and because that would be quite disengaging
for sure. It does also make me think how much I miss Jack Draper being there, because I'm not saying that he's necessarily going to beat Sinner and Alcaraz in this sort of event, but I did think, and not to be too harsh, we always do say there are sometimes events where people make up the numbers. And I think that Jack's season prior to it being cut off, had he continued it, he would have been there.
Yeah.
And I think we were missing a couple of players that really could test the top players. So that's one thing that I would say is that although enjoyable event when everyone arrived, I do think it does, as you say, Joel, exposes the fact that it's a 2-horse race at the moment. Yeah. Well, unless Djokovic is there, I think then it's a 2.5 horse race.
Yeah, I mean, you'd love to have seen like a Daniel Medvedev, I think, in this field, because it just, the kind of going into it did really feel like, a lot of players are kind of making up the numbers and not playing to their ability. And I would just add on Zverev as well. I think he doesn't have a great plan, I think, when it comes to all those breakpoint chances. I feel like he's in that Medvedev mindset, of that old Medvedev mindset of, I'm just going to wait till my opponent
doesn't go for it, does he?
Doesn't lose the point, but he needs to be more aggressive given his tool frame, be closer to the baseline. I feel like he's too far back, and really assert himself, because he's got such a great weapon in terms of his serve. And I think that's been a big talking point, this week, particularly with Jannik Sinner, and someone who has such a seemingly one of the, a really great game, but again, something he has improved a lot on, and his team have spoken about, since the US Open, things that they are tweaking. So, he needs to be able to build on that, and maybe he needs to change it up. Like Francis Tiafoe did a complete reset of his team, and I wonder with Zverev if we're going to need to see bigger changes, because it's been the story for the whole season. He is so far away from the top 2. That can't be a nice feeling to be in, particularly with all those Grand Slam points coming up with the Australian Open final. he's going to need to start next season very, very strongly.
Well, he will go into next season as the world number 3. Like you said, Sinner and Alcaraz very far ahead. Alcaraz has ended the year as world number 1, despite, losing in the final here. I mean, do you think, based on what we've seen in Turin, is that a fair position for Alcaraz to be in? Should he be number 1, or is Sinner the real number 1? What do you think? I mean, obviously, so close between them. I think it's about.
I hadn't seen this
points.
one on the script. I'm like, goodness, where do we go with
Posing
this?
a really difficult question. Like, who do you deep down in your heart of hearts feel should be number 1 at the end of the year?
See, this is the tricky thing. It always comes to like the GOAT debate, Kim, doesn't it? Is it your heart or your head? Because
head says points. Alcaraz has got the most points.
But got most titles this season as well.
I'm not sure, because if it's this close and Sinner was banned for 3 months,
true,
there's no doubt in my mind if he'd have been playing during those 3 months, he would have easily been world number 1. Absolutely no way he wouldn't have been. So I think it actually speaks to who I would want to be world number 1 at the end of this year. I think it's Carlos Alcaraz, purely based on the fact that I don't like someone getting a favourable ban then being able to win everything. The only person who's held him account this year is Carlos Alcaraz. So I would go, Jannik Sinner is the player who should be number 1, but he's not number 1, and it's actually his fault and his team's fault, and the responsibility lies there that he's not. But having said that, I mean, to have this season based on where he was and to be at number 2, I don't think he cares about the number 1 ranking, really. This has been an incredible return to form, and I think that's where I sit. But the best tennis of the year, that's also a question, isn't it? Is it Sinner? Is it Alcaraz? But Joel, I can see you're itching to disagree with me.
Do you know what? I know. I actually agree with you. I think.
Oh, really?
What I will say though about Alcaraz, and I think something we learned from this final is that Carlos Alcaraz is competitive against Jannik Sinner on an indoor hard court. I think there were quite a few questions in terms of how big that gap is, and it shows that I think this rivalry it's just so even, it's just so equal on all the surfaces. And I think we saw earlier in the season, I know we had the Rome final, which was straight sets to Alcaraz over Sinner, but looking at that French Open final, that was very competitive on the clay, where maybe people thought Alcaraz
was
would
very,
be in
very
front.
competitive, Joel. That was the match.
It was
really?
very competitive.
Was it? Yeah.
But I'm just saying there was a lot, that was a big improvement. And I still think there's improvements for Sinner to be made on a clay court. But I certainly think that Alcaraz can be proud of his efforts on an indoor hard court when, Kim, you rattled off those stats in terms of Sinner's record and his streak on this surface. It is phenomenal. I mean, 31 straight wins on an indoor hard, 15 consecutive wins to end the season. Yeah. Carlos Alcaraz can be proud, and I was impressed with how competitive he was. Having said that, to me, Jannik Sinner is he may be number 2 in the rankings, but to me, he's playing the world number 1 tennis. And I think the one thing I would say is what I've been impressed by is how he has bounced back, from a ban, how he bounced back from a massive defeat in that French Open final to win Wimbledon. How he bounced back in that match against Dimitrov. There's so many.
We shouldn't talk about that. No,
bounce back.
Horrible.
How did he bounce back? Goodness, too soon. But I was going to say, Kim, you haven't given your view on this one.
Well, I'm going to be diplomatic and say I think they need each other to shine and excel. So, does it really matter who's 1 and 2? Because
do you think that they mind that much? Is that what you're saying?
The next few years, they're just going to be, if it continues as it is, they're just going to be, one's going to eke ahead, the other one's going to come back, and it's just going to be playing a game of tag, potentially. So
okay, so Kim's on the fence there. But one thing I do think, as you said, Joel, is very interesting, is that having watched the Australian Open final and watching how the French Open final was going, I thought he's going to do the Grand Slam this year. I really did think that was what was on the card. So it is also very impressive that, as you say, Kim, if Carlos wasn't able to raise his level, if they didn't have each other, then I don't think tennis would be having such an exciting year, exciting rivalry, and we wouldn't be pushing each other. It would be, dominance of one. So it's exciting to see.
Yes. Well, let's round up what happened in the doubles at the ATP Finals, because we had Henry Patton and Harry Heliovara winning the title, beating Neil Skupski and Joe Salisbury. So we had one Brit beating two Brits. But yeah, Patton becoming the youngest winner at the ATP Finals in 6 years, and only the third Brit to win a title here, after Andy Murray obviously won the singles and Joe Salisbury's previously won the doubles. So yeah, good result for them. And also Skupski and Salisbury have now split up after that and end of the season. Salisbury's taking some time out, so we wish him well. And but nice to round off a good season for Patton and Heliovara.
Salisbury's record at the Tour Finals was unbelievable going into going into here. Given he's won it twice, I think with Ram in 2022 and 2023. But this just shows, I think, that there's a new kid on the block, Henry Patton. It's just great showcase for British doubles at the moment.
It's a bit scary, isn't it? In the top, looking at this, in the top 10, half of
dominating.
them are Brits.
Yeah,
well, we've got number 1, number 2, number 3, and then we've got 9 and 10. So
should we just make Davis Cup? I mean,
doubles only.
Doubles only. I mean, I know Britain aren't in the final anyway, but
we've got a couple of good singles players as well.
Yeah, true that.
We could have equal singles and doubles would help us maybe.
Well, let's take a quick break now, but do join us in the second half, where we'll be discussing the prospect of Novak Djokovic playing until the LA Olympics in 2028, Tim Henman's call for tennis to adopt an F1 model to scheduling, and we'll be looking ahead at the Davis Cup Final 8 as it gets underway in Bologna. So do not go anywhere. Welcome back to the Tennis Weekly podcast. And before we go into this week's Par for the Courts, we've got a very special competition for this year's UTS Grand Finals in London. And I believe, Joel and Chris, you have all the details for our listeners.
That is very, very true, Kim. We have partnered once again with the UTS Ultimate Tennis Showdown Grand Final London to offer one lucky Tennis Weekly listener the chance to win a pair of tickets to the almost sold out 2025 edition.
Yes, that's right. The UTS Grand Final is returning to London and the Copper Box, which was very successful last year. So if you're free on Saturday, the 6th of December, it's the evening session and the schedule's already out. So you can know that you're going to watch Jack Draper take on Casper Ruud, as well as the likes of Andrei Rublev and last year's winner, Alex de Minaur. So what do you have to do to enter, Joel?
Well, for your chance to win a pair of tickets to the UTS Grand Final in London, all you have to do is follow us on social media at Tennis Weekly Pod, like our competition post, and tag a friend that you would like to bring with you.
And the terms and condition, there's a maximum of 2 entries per person, 1 per social channel on Instagram and Twitter. And the competition closes on Friday, the 21st of November at midnight. And we will message you directly on the channel you entered on Saturday, the 22nd of November, to let you know that you have won.
Indeed. And tickets are also available as well. Still, you can purchase them at uts.live. We'll put the link in the description. And good luck to everyone who enters our competition.
Yeah, very exciting, because Adrian Mannarino is going to be.
I can't get a name. These new nicknames, Kim.
I mean, obviously Jack Draper's there, which is great, and we've got Ruud, defending champion Alex de Minaur, but I was particularly excited by Mannarino.
We have to have a picture with him. Surely we'll get to speak to him and ask him about all of our questions, Joel.
Chris, I've already seen him in Mets. I've got my Mannarino fill for the season.
So you're saying that Kim and I have to do that interview?
Yeah. We'll take him. It's
okay.
fine.
Well, we've got to show him around.
Well, Joel, do you have a Par for the Courts for myself, Chris, and our listeners today?
Is this our final one of the season?
It might be.
Is that true?
Gosh.
It could be.
Hopefully.
So the big question is, to beat you then, Chris.
Kim, this is your one last chance.
We have got the quiz though, haven't we?
That is true. We do have a quiz coming up.
Yeah.
But yeah, we do have a Par for the Courts for this episode. And in classic fashion, it is going to be Chris versus Kim. And this
year end number ones, I'm guessing.
Do you know what it is? Year end number
is
ones.
It?
Yes, it is.
I honestly should do some Googling before this starts, because I think I know how your brain works now, Joel.
I would like you to tell me as many ATP year end number ones as possible that aren't Federer, Nadal, and Djokovic. I just want to get rid of some of the easy answers. There's a few easy answers still there, but I just want to get rid of the obvious, the big three. So I don't want to hear Federer, Nadal, or Djokovic. But I would like you to tell me, as many ATP end of season number ones as possible. And I believe there are 16. I think there are 16 other names.
1990, would it be from?
1973.
Oh, okay. Not okay. Right. Sorry, I'm thinking of Masters series. Okay. Ooh,
so who would like to go first?
Ooh.
And
the rules were we can't have
Federer, Nadal, or Djokovic.
But can I go first?
Yes, you can.
We can have Andy Murray.
That is correct. Very good. Yes, Andy Murray on the list. 2016 year end number one.
I am going to go for Pete Sampras.
Pete Sampras is correct. 6 times year end number one. So that is one apiece. I'm not gonna lie, 2 answers that are on there, but there are still some gimmies on the board. Kim, it's back to you.
I'm a bit stressed by this when you took away some options when we started.
Carlos Alcaraz.
Well, there you go. Correct answer. Year end number one in 2025 and also 2022.
So then it should be Jannik Sinner. Can I have that as well?
Correct. Yes. Jannik Sinner, 2024 year end number one. So that is 2 apiece.
I assume Agassi would have been it at some point. Well, it might not have been because he wasn't year end. You know, he was. Oh dear.
That is a correct answer. Very good, Kim. 1999 year end number one. So that puts you into the lead, 3-2.
I am not very sure, but I did read something this week about Lendl has won it multiple times. Not won it, has finished the year at number one multiple times.
Ivan Lendl?
Yes.
That is correct. Yeah, he has been year end number one 4 times. The last time was in 1989. So that is 3 apiece. Back to you, Kim.
How many left, Joel? Is it like 10 left still?
I think so. I'm counting on my fingers.
Right, come on, Kim. We can do this.
My maths. Yes.
I will say Boris Becker.
Boris Becker is not on the list. Incorrect.
Kim.
Answer.
I should have gone with the person I wanted to say.
Who? Say it.
Carlos Moya. Was he?
That's right. You can play on.
Carlos Moya's not correct.
Okay, it's fine then.
So, Chris, it is over to you. I mean, this has been the story of the season, but you have one guess to win.
Kim
this
likes to give it to me. Normally, she's got a few more answers. As soon as this game ends,
Becker would be a safe option. That's why I didn't say Carlos Moya.
Well, I thought surely we should have said. Do we say Borg and McEnroe? I'm going to go McEnroe.
Which one are you going with, Chris?
McEnroe.
John McEnroe is a correct answer. Very, very good. A very easy, another gimme answer. He was a 4-time year end number one.
Yeah, if you had given me, Kim didn't get it.
That's very true.
Well, I would have said him eventually.
Yeah. If you had said Bjorn Borg, that would have also been correct. Yep. So, Bjorn Borg, John McEnroe. Any other guesses?
Leighton Hewitt I'd had in the bank.
Safin?
Leighton Hewitt is correct.
I don't think
Matt Safin. No. Andy Roddick is a correct answer. Yeah, 2003.
Nastasi.
Very good. First year end number one, 1973.
Edberg.
Very good, Kim. I mean,
Kim,
once again, Kim,
good when the competition's over.
Answers.
Please bring this
Edberg
energy to our quiz.
Was a 2-time champion. You could have also given me Jimmy Connors.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, Jimmy Connors. I forget he was very good at tennis.
Michael Chang was never...
No, Michael Chang. There are 2 answers left. 1988 and 2000.
Thomas
Guga?
Johansson. No.
Yep, Gustavo Kuerten is correct. 2000, and the final one, 1988.
What was happening in 1988?
We see this person a lot.
We see this person.
Tim Henman?
Jim Courier.
No. It's not Jim Courier.
Mats Wilander.
Yes, we see this person a lot with Barbara Schett, randomly roaming the grounds at Grand Slams. It is
we do.
Mats Wilander, 1988, year end number 1. Quite a few Swedes on the list.
Go Marcelo Rios was my next one, but
no, that is everyone. So there you go. But no Boris Becker, Kim.
Oh, well, there you go.
Quite a comprehensive victory for me there, Kim.
Well done, Chris. I think you do deserve the number 1 title after this season.
But I could not do what I do without having you as my number 2, Kim. Just like Carlos and Jannik.
Well, let's dip into the mailbag now. One last time for the season. Henry's been in touch on Instagram. I don't think it's Henry Patton. It's just, Henry. Henry asks us about ATP chairman Andrea Gaudenzi, who spoke to Sky Sports about that ATP schedule recently. Tim Henman then commented on the interview saying, the big problem with the schedule is that there is too much irrelevant tennis and that it doesn't provide a clear narrative for tennis fans. Tim Henman suggested there should be weeks off without tennis at all, and it should follow an F1 style model where they have, 20 races with gaps in between, and then you add up the points over the season to declare, the total champion. Henry wants to know what our thoughts are on, both Tim Henman's comments and also Andrea Gaudenzi, ATP chairman's comments about the schedule. Just to sort of clarify.
Can I just say, I'm sure Sky Sports were absolutely loving the idea that Tim Henman was commenting there's too much irrelevant tennis.
That Sky Sports are covering. Does he mean that?
I mean, it's a bit awkward, isn't it? That was the first thing I thought. I mean, irrelevant tennis. And I thought, irrelevant to who, Tim? Because,
It's keeping you in a job, mate.
Is Susan Lammons irrelevant? I don't think so.
We don't think so. I mean, when it comes to, weeks on tour, I think the 250 weeks are not irrelevant to the fans in those places. And I think that tennis being a global sport, it's important. And a lot of the smaller tournaments are at places that can't afford to have the bigger tournaments. So I do object to someone who is not a tennis fan telling us what fans want or what the narrative should be or what the fans need, because I think tennis fans are very educated. I think they're well aware of how it works. I don't think it's complicated, but we're not talking about tennis fans, we're talking about fans at large. And I think that's something that maybe if you say it's a barrier to people getting involved in the sport, there's some logic there. I still don't think it's that hard to understand necessarily. I think, the ATP Finals is pretty confusing, and that's not what's in question. And that's why he's talking about it, where the round robin format, our heads are still spinning from that. But, sports like cycling, the beauty of it is that it is complex. There are races happening within races at the Tour de France, for example. So I think simplifying everything doesn't make it better. I don't think the narrative needs to be cleaner. I think it's quite clear. And I think the narratives tend to be in the papers and in the headlines as opposed to be in people actually going on the ATP rankings websites, like we do. And so I kind of object to that side of the comments. But Joel, I think on the F1 model, I think it would be interesting to see because they're definitely heading in that way, do we think?
I do think so. I like the sound of it, but the more I've thought about it, the more I'm worried that something like that will make tennis even more exclusive. And I don't like this idea that, we can just treat tennis like Formula One. Tennis isn't Formula One. And I think this is maybe a hangover of Formula One, Drive to Survive did really well. Okay, tennis copies it with Breakpoint. Oh, what else could we potentially copy from Formula One and maybe that's where this has come from. But 20 races, I can see how that might work for the very, very top players. But if you're someone ranked further down who's looking for prize money to make ends meet from week to week, I don't necessarily think you can afford to have kind of gaps in your schedule or time off where you could be accruing ranking points. So I think it's an interesting kind of concept. And I think for the big players, I think it's actually perhaps an approach or a strategic direction you could take to your schedule. I think actually that could work maybe on an individual basis, but I don't necessarily think it could work from an ATP kind of point of view, as much as maybe they would like it. I just don't see how this would be accommodating and inclusive to all the different types of players that are on the tour. And it just, again, creates a world where there's one really nice fancy world for the top 10, top 20 players, but for everyone else underneath, it could exacerbate that issue even more. We talk about players outside the top 100 failing to make ends meet. If we did this model, who's to say it wouldn't make players outside the top 50 feel more vulnerable?
It would definitely change the nature of the game and the sport. I think tennis is played at all levels, and I think that's something that people really do love about it. And it really is kind of a sport where there are so many great matches that you'd see at 500 level, at 250 level. And I think they're important tournaments. So I think I wouldn't like to see that. But on that F1 comment, I wouldn't mind it. I'm not going to do away with the race. I like that. I like the rankings, but I wouldn't mind it if the race didn't include, the 250s, because the race is the race to the Turin or the ATP Finals. So if it was just based on the Masters performance, for example, maybe that would be interesting, because then that is the best of the best doing the best at the biggest tournaments. I could get on board with that. And then bonuses for playing more of those tournaments. But I don't love the nature of changing it that dramatically. And the point around, I think Tim also made a point around the fact there's 14 tournaments in February, and how a player is supposed to know what to do if Alcaraz is playing somewhere, Sinner is playing somewhere, Zverev and Djokovic is playing somewhere. And I'll tell you, that didn't happen in February, because the nature of how people play their season isn't that they play every week anyway. So that was one point, Kim, I want to ask you about, is the chairman did talk about the fact that players complain, but then they are also still playing smaller tournaments whilst complaining for the big fees that they get, their entry fees, to attract them there. Do you have some sympathy for the ATP on this, that, players do have a choice and sometimes they are choosing the money, but also then complaining about the schedule?
Oh, yeah. I mean, definitely. I do agree with Gaudenzi that a lot of the players are perhaps, the top players that are kind of moaning about the schedule are going off playing exhibitions. They're sometimes playing 250s because, like you said, of the large appearance fees. And actually, you don't need to play a 250 if you're Carlos Alcaraz or Jannik Sinner, unless maybe you're coming back after a lengthy injury break or something. You've got different sort of motivation then to play those. But, save those tournaments for the players that would benefit more from those. And I think, money has dictated some of the decision making, and I guess, agent sponsorship deals, etc. It's probably quite hard to say no to some of that, especially when you're in the sort of peak of your career. You want to kind of make hay while the sun shines. But at the end of the day, if you're thinking about longevity and avoiding burnout, you've got to prioritize your schedule, like we've seen, Djokovic do as the years have gone by. He's very clever at kind of just pinpointing what matters to him most, and trying to preserve himself. And that, I think, is ultimately what the top players have to, and they probably will learn over the years, that that's what they will need to do to survive.
It's quite interesting as well, that point, Kim, around where the players choose to play, because it feels like we're getting more and more to a point where there would almost be like two tours, of like the 250 tour and then the 1000 tour of players, and then they meet sometimes at a 500. Whereas if you're
bridge the gap,
but I'm not going to see, Alcaraz isn't going to play a 250 anytime soon, that's for sure.
Do you feel like, given the amount of tennis that is now played, do you even feel like the word tour is appropriate? Because I would say kind of that how Formula One goes from place to place feels like a tour. A band goes on a tour, they go from one gig location to another. But the fact that we've got all these tournaments, do you feel like it's hard to kind of talk about it in terms of a tour, just because it's like tennis is on and every time of the year? It's like golf. I feel like the tour element of it has sort of, the meaning of it has become less impactful over time. The more tournaments we've added to the schedule, the less time that there is off. It's just become an all-encompassing beast. And I do like the idea of a tour. I think that's what gets people excited and it's interesting, but I wouldn't even call it a tour anymore.
It's interesting, right? Because you do like a multi-screen experience when it comes to watching the Masters golf, don't you, Joel? You know, it's fun. There's a lot of things that are happening. I think that's very exciting. I do think now the tournaments are actually competing with each other so that to be the fans' favorite as opposed to, you know, getting fans a clear narrative. I think you're seeing that fans maybe aren't as big, well, aren't as, don't view as much some of the smaller tournaments. They do have favorites where they tend to tune in, and you've got to recognize there are differences there. And I think the fact that you say that maybe it isn't a tour, I think I could be on board with there being less split elements to the tour. I think if there's tennis, it should be in one place. I can understand that as a concept, but you can't fit it all in. So something's got to give. And if you're the ATP chairman, you're balancing the tournaments and the players. And I think you have to find a middle ground.
It's an argument that's going to keep on going and debating, and people are going to have their 2 pence worth, like Tim Henman. But I mean, let's leave it there for today, and we'll see how these conversations develop over the coming months. So thank you, Henry, for sending in your question. Do keep them coming. We'll try to answer as many as possible in the 2026 season. One thing I wanted to ask you about, I don't know if any of you saw recently, Novak Djokovic did an interview with Piers Morgan on his uncensored YouTube channel. He was asked a lot of questions about Jannik Sinner's ban, etc., etc. And I think there was a lot of headlines that came out of this interview, but actually Djokovic had some quite nice words to say about Jannik Sinner, and I think his criticism was mostly about how the ban was, came about and was handled. But one thing that did also come out the interview was Djokovic is perhaps planning to finish his career at the LA Olympics, which is 3 years away, or 2.5 years away. Is that realistic, or is this a step too far, do you think?
Let's crunch the numbers, Joel. He'll be 41 in Djokovic years. That's probably a 35 for someone else, do we think?
Djokovic years are different.
A gluten-free person at 41 might be equivalent to a 35-year-old.
Would he be competitive, though, like in any way?
But would it matter? Is it more about defending his Olympic title, holding the flag? He's talked about how important that is. But I do think, it's almost making a mockery of how we talk about it. The last days of Djokovic, and having said that, he's literally what is he ranked in the world? 4 in the world. He's guaranteed that until after Australia, I think. So, or into Australia, sorry. So, he's not, if we wouldn't be saying Taylor Fritz, are you retiring, would we? At the same point. So why not, if you're enjoying it and you're enjoying some of the smaller tournaments he's winning, I wouldn't be surprised if he does appear there, but I do think there might be like a break in between. I don't think he's going to play consistently for the next 3 years. I think he might find a bit of a hybrid model. But I was going to say, Kim, I'd love to know your opinion when he compared sort of the cloud that will follow him and sort of the cloud, and that cloud is the COVID cloud, not literally a cloud of COVID, but around the Australian Open deportation situation that happened, comparing that to the cloud around the doping case of Jannik Sinner. Do you think that's a comparison that can be made? Or do you think that maybe that analogy slightly favors one of the two of them?
No, I think it's a fair comparison, actually. Like, it's a scandal. It happened. There was a lot of hoo-ha. It was in the media. To be fair, with Djokovic, I don't particularly think about the deportation and the vaccination stuff so much. I think time has passed, and I think give it 3 years, and maybe people will not be thinking about Jannik Sinner's ban.
But have they already forgotten about it? A lot of people, do you think? Because his popularity hasn't waned in any way.
Yeah,
I think they have.
Yeah,
I mean,
everyone's moved on, maybe except me.
I was a bit like, oh yeah, he did have 3 months out the season, so maybe he should be number one based on the ranking points if he had played. So perhaps Djokovic, has Sinner is getting off lighter than say Djokovic. But I think there were things in Djokovic's remit that were some people didn't like.
What was that? The tour he tried to bring together at a time of COVID, not the best, and the
Adria Cup.
He did say he's not anti-vaccine, he's anti-choice, came out of this as well. So a lot of things were covered. The GOAT debate, he said that there were players whose sort of career were ended early, so it's hard to know because he's still playing at 38 and Borg retired at 26 as to who would be the greatest. So I think it was quite an interesting. You would expect with Piers Morgan that kind of nothing is off the table when it comes to what was discussed. Was there anything there that sort of surprised you, Joel, from listening to it? Was it sort of the sort of thing you're expecting, or was there anything particularly controversial? I think people were trying to find a headline in there.
Yeah. Well, I thought it was interesting that Darren Cahill, Jannik Sinner's coach, posted on social media, and some people think this is in reference to some of the comments. He posted a quote saying, "Opinion is really the lowest form of human knowledge. It requires no accountability, no understanding. The highest form of knowledge is empathy, for it requires us to suspend our egos and live in another's world."
Goodness, this was the character reference for Jannik Sinner and Simona Halep, who said it's about empathy. I mean, where are the facts at?
Yeah, the timing of this is what people are suggesting is a slight dig at Novak Djokovic. But yeah, it seems a bit odd because I don't think he was being too kind of disparaging, towards Sinner and kind of what happened earlier in the season. So yeah, it didn't feel like it was necessarily vindicated, but it was interesting. Yeah, Darren Cahill.
Is it the timing? Do you think the timing after he obviously didn't play the ATP Finals and then is bringing up something that maybe Cahill and Sinner would like to not have as much attention on? Do you think maybe that's what it's about?
Yeah, possibly. Yeah.
But I mean, I agree with you. I think he said,
he's not even known for this sort of thing. I don't think. He's quite a well-reasoned guy. Does fronts up to interviews. Doesn't necessarily kind of go after into this sort of behavior. I wouldn't have said so. It was a little bit surprising.
Well, did it live up to the Rafa interview on Serve with Andy Roddick Kim for you? I'm sure nothing could.
Of course not. No, absolutely. Well, let's leave Djokovic there though, because we do have very quickly the Davis Cup final 8 to talk about. It kicks off this week on Tuesday, and they're all out in Bologna. We've got Italy, Austria, France, Belgium, Spain, Czechia, Argentina, and Germany. So very European heavy. There's no America, no Australia, no GB either. Obviously, Italy defending champions 2 times over. Will they make it 3 in a row? I think Musetti's pulled out. We also don't know if Alcaraz will play for Spain. So some
depleted,
question marks,
isn't it, Kim?
Yes, it does feel like slightly just less energy, less focus on this event this year. It'd be interesting to see how it goes down in Bologna if on the ground there's a really different vibe. But who do you think's going to come through? Who's winning this year's Davis?
You're good at predicting this. You're the master of the team competition.
I'm not gonna lie, it is hard to get. Listeners, let us know if we're being really harsh.
That's what we have to do.
It is hard.
Excite listeners.
I mean, I'm the organisers will be praying. I think Carlos Alcaraz does, come onto the court, but nursing a potential hamstring injury, and with the the next season so close by, it'll be interesting to see, how David Ferrer, the Spanish captain, utilizes Alcaraz, if at all.
Give him a racket. Give Ferrer a racket is what I say.
Well, I mean, Berdych is there as the Czech captain. Meltz is there as the Austrian.
So the star power's on the bench.
Paul-Henri Mathieu. You could get the captains just to play, couldn't you?
I personally am looking at Czechia. I think Lehečka, Menšik, and Machak. I think that's very, very strong. I know they've got Spain first up, but if Alcaraz doesn't play, I would back Czechia to come through that. And,
over Jaume Munar led Spain. Kim, please.
You said
I know
it
might be
me.
surprising, but yes.
Yeah, goodness. I feel like that's not a bad guess. I think also looking at the strength in the doubles for Germany, they've got a great doubles pair there as well as a top singles player. Struff does like the big stage. And I'm also just thinking, we're talking about Zverev this episode. We've seen people really spurred on by big results at the Davis Cup. And maybe this could be the thing in the team competition that could help him boost the end of his season.
His singles for next year
and spur him on. It could be important. So I'm going to go Germany are going to take it.
Oh, I will say Italy 3 in a trot, even without Sinner and Musetti.
Wow.
Because they've got a very solid doubles pairing and home crowd. And I feel like Alcaraz may pull out. I would if I was him, maybe. But let's see. Let's see what the MRI says. And that brings us to a close, I think.
Yes, it does. It does indeed. Our final tour catch-up of the season. But listeners, yes, we've got a couple of announcements. First of all, our crowdfunder for next season. Do look out for that. We are going to be launching it live on our socials from next week. We're going to be doing some promotional episodes as well. We're going to be doing some quizzes, looking back on
promotional
the ATP
episodes. What does this mean, Joel?
I don't know. Sorry, I got my words mixed up there.
We're doing a wrap up. We're doing an ATP wrap up, a WTA wrap up, a promotion. I'm like, what are we giving away?
It's an hour of adverts.
Yeah, we just put together all our
promotional
ad reads
for the 2026 season.
Yeah.
Wow. But yes, we do have some very exciting episodes coming up. We've got our quiz episodes, our wrap up episodes, and yes, our crowdfund is going live from next
2026 preview. So we actually are weekly throughout this period. So that's
no weeks off for Tennis Weekly HQ.
No weeks
off. We go
off.
to an F1 style.
Maybe we should. Obviously, just 20 episodes and gaps in between, please.
Yes. But we're going to wrap it up there for our latest tour catch up here at Tennis Weekly HQ. We hope you've enjoyed the ride with us. Remember to subscribe so you don't miss a moment of ATP and WTA action as we head into the 2026 season. You can find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, and all your favorite podcasting platforms out there.
And if you love what you're hearing, then be sure to leave us a rating and review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify and hit that like and subscribe button on YouTube.
And you should make sure you stay connected on social media. Look out for our UTS post, our competition post, so you can enter. You need to make sure that you tag a friend on that post and follow us. And you can do that on Facebook and Instagram, but we're also on TikTok, X, and Threads. And the handle for all of those is Tennis Weekly Pod. And if you'd like to get in touch with the show, you can. But as we've said, the mailbag is now suspended until further notice, until 2026. So please write us a question. And we can't promise we'll answer it, but we definitely will read it. And maybe we'll answer it in the new year.
And we'll be back next week for another episode, which will be our ATP wrap-up episode. Not one to miss. So do join us for that. But until then, it's goodbye from Kim.
Goodbye.
It's goodbye from Chris.
Goodbye.
And it's goodbye from me. Thanks for listening, and we'll catch you next time on Tennis Weekly.